All right, all right. Late Sunday, June 18th, 2023. Happy Father's Day to all the dads and the pops out there. But hey, you've got Bags and GP and Nick, Jeff DI here with you on a Sunday evening. No market tomorrow. But we thought it'd be good to just hop on, and we know we have Cookie hopping on with us tomorrow around 11-ish a.m. Eastern time, but wanted to do our normal thing while we could. And hey, how about that huge sell-off? The Bears were right on Friday, right? Like everything's like it's the end of the world as we know it. No? Too soon?
I mean, oh, go ahead, GP.
No, I got nothing.
I mean, I think some of the big names, like I'd love to see them kind of just continue to rust a little bit. Apple, Google, Netflix, like all the names that have been kind of on a tear. There's still definitely a lot of setups out there. I don't know. The spies and the Qs like are definitely due for a little bit of a rest. I know we just kind of like, Qs, for instance, we literally just broke over that kind of 335 area, but I don't know. I think a little bit of range would be great for the Bulls.
What do you mean you don't know? I mean, the Qs have only ripped what are we, like 30% or more? Yeah, 42% basically. I mean, yeah, I mean, anyone would be able to think that you got to have a little bit of a rest, right?
No. We are up 2% since March of 2022. 2%. We are up 2%. We closed March 28th, 2022 at 361.85. We just closed at 367.93. I think people are using indicators too much and not paying attention to the price action. My personal opinion.
I mean, how long do you think this lockout can run before it pulls in a little bit?
Check the monthly. The monthly already broke over that for the Qs. That triple top on the monthly from February, March, and April, the 371, it already cleared that. It's already giving you the preview of what it plans to do here. So maybe this month's candle ends up looking like February 2023 candle. But what did March 2023 candle look like afterwards?
Big old green boner bar.
Yeah. So, I'm in. Yeah, for sure. Like I think that I'm just saying. Like I think a couple weeks with some chop sideways action would be.
But you gotta look at the monthlies.
I am looking. Yeah, totally.
Monthly already took out the range of that pop that three triple top month, right, and down. After it pretty much all-time high, right?
Sure.
And reversed. So you're already taking out that range. So it's like this. Hi guys, here's my preview of what I plan to do for the rest of the month. Please keep shorting because RSI is 942 and MACD is going through the roof.
Yeah, by no means by saying get short. I'm just saying that I think that it's time for some like other names to kind of step up as like the bigger leaders need to digest a little bit.
Give me some names, Nick.
I mean, VRTX is starting to set up again. I think it looks great. Boston Scientific is at the top of my list. I think Visa, MasterCard, I think those both look great. I like Goldman and I like JP Morgan. Like we kind of talked about last week, like Boeing still looks good. I wasn't too thrilled with the Friday close, but I mean, it's still sitting above the 215 breakout.
Check out FDX.
FDX. Yeah, FDX looks great. Again, like right. I think that we see chop in the queues only because I think that these leaders need to breathe.
FedEx reports this week.
Yeah, and that could definitely mess it up. But chart wise, a lot of this stuff is like looking at rotations. So
Yeah.
in bear markets, you don't get rotations up, you get rotations down, right? So what you're seeing is maybe some of the leaders rest, but not necessarily the entire market, right?
So-
No, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I would agree.
And so like, you know, people talk about we've run too hot, right? But when we went from 367 at the end of March of last year, or what was it, 371 to 280 in a straight line in 8 weeks, no one said we were way oversold. No one said this was nuts. This is like, we lost 90 points on the Qs, 30% in 2 months, right? And now all of a sudden we're just running too hot. And I'm not saying I wouldn't welcome consolidation, but when you take out a triple top monthly high already in the middle of the month, it's something to be kind of watching, that it's already showing you what it wants to do. Maybe it's not this month, and we kind of go sideways over the next couple of weeks, and then we take it out in July. I don't know. I don't see how we don't get even close to all-time highs in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
So
I
Nick,
think July. I think we do. I think we test highs within July.
That's
Well,
a 10% move.
So
Yeah.
so Nick, you were saying like the mega caps, right? Apple's whatever needs to take a break, right? And GP, you're all on board with everything's higher. Do you think that without the mega caps, like July, we can see all-time highs, Nick? I mean, that sounds like
that's the camp that I'm in. I think you give us a couple weeks to breathe, and I think July we're off to the races again.
so that would be with mega cap participation. That wouldn't be without
Yeah.
them, obviously. Yeah, okay.
No.
I
So
heard
let's take a look at Apple's chart for a second, right? What has Apple done every single week over the last 3 weeks?
closed higher.
Close higher and all-time high, weekly close every single week.
For 3
Even on
straight
the
weeks.
event sell-off, we have closed higher.
Yep,
Yeah.
for 3 straight weeks.
Right. And did we close higher than last week's high in Apple? What was
Yes.
last week's high? 184.95. So we closed 3 cents below last week's high.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. And if you look at the Qs, if you're looking at a weekly basis, we had 2 weeks at 148, 348, right? We had a doji, red doji on higher volume. Everyone's like, that's it, that's the candle. And instead of taking it at what it is indecision at a level that gap need to fill and see what the price action was afterwards. Everyone's like, this is the candle into FOMC short. And what did we do?
It wasn't the candle.
Yeah.
It wasn't the candle. We closed 13 points higher than the week before on increasing volume.
I mean, I still like Amazon. I'm still in the camp that Amazon goes higher. Like it's closed higher. You had, inside week the week before on that doji, and then last week, not the greatest week, but closed higher.
Yeah, it's basically like a 3-week type almost.
Yeah.
Look at MDB. My gosh, that looks like it's gonna blast.
I mean, the IWM looks. I think the IWM. I don't like necessarily how big a volume that bar was on Friday, but the IWM is like basically flagging, on the daily.
Yep.
It's set to go.
And look, I like IWM. I'm in September calls. I picked them up when Ivy was sitting at like 12, so I'm good. Even if it kind of drops tomorrow, they'll be fine. They were really cheap for not a big move that small caps can do if they start getting momentum. small caps don't do a grind up, right? They gap and go. They move hard when they move, and then the rest of the time they make you miserable, right? It's like this. It's like the movie Misery. I like small caps. Put in a doji at a resistance, horizontal resistance. Yet still closed higher than the week before. You have potentially, I think it's a monthly MACD cross, right? It's kind of curling up. So that's something else to watch. The Qs just had their MACD cross on the monthly. See what happened to the Qs after they had the monthly cross down. The cross down was in January of 2022. What did we do after January 2022? We only went from almost all-time highs to down to 250 in the next 6 to 8 months. So it's tough to watch. I think people are too fixated on the daily indicators and not seeing the price action. Personally, that's me. I think a lot of people are underweighted and
Yeah, most definitely. Dips are gonna be shallow. I think no matter where you look, I think they're gonna just continually get bought up. I
was watching some clips of the Compound, which is downtown Josh Brown's podcast, and interesting debate they were having. And I want to throw this to you guys. I think I know where you both land, but are we in a new bull market, or have we just ended the bear market?
Say that again.
Are we in a new bull market, or is the bear market over? Just because the bear market's over doesn't mean we're in a bull market. We could chop sideways forever, right? And that we're
No, I think we're in a new bull market.
we're not. Technically, bull markets start when you reclaim prior highs.
Oh, okay.
We're just range bound,
The
Nick.
bear market's
That's
just
a good-
over.
that's a
Where
good-
we haven't entered a new bull, is what you're saying, GP?
Sure. I mean, I
we're-
guess to that definition, I guess I would agree. Sure.
To me, it's a mean reversion back to a level, and you got to see what happens at that level, right? So if we push towards all-time highs, what do we see? Do we see people liquidating out their stuff and it becomes a double top, or are we going to push through? So to me, I look at let's take a look at the 2000 top, right? We topped in March of 2000 at 120.5 in the Qs. It took how many years? It almost took 16 years to come back to that level, and then we chopped for months at that level, right? So we could see ourselves chop here. We don't know. So to me, basically anyone who bought the Qs broke even 16 years later. Tell them that it's a bull market. You know, I mean, to me, it's not. I know 20% rally off the bottoms is technically bull market, but it's not a bull market. It's a range bound market and it's been range bound. How many times have we talked about that? Right, sideways to up or down, whatever the current theme is. Do I think this can turn into a full-blown bull market? I personally think so. But there's still a lot of work to do here.
GP, what I heard you say was buy high, sell higher.
And that's typically how you do it in the markets, right?
Right. But I'm summing it up really succinctly. Succinct. All right.
And if you think about it, right?
I expected the answers to be flip flopped. I expected you to say GP. Yeah, we're in a bull, and Nick to be the one saying, "Well, I think the bear's over."
I guess maybe to clarify, I would have said that when the Qs broke out of that channel, the trend is up. The trend has changed. So I guess maybe I don't know, just a different thought process, I guess. But I guess I would kind of agree with what GP is saying, is a new bull would start when all-time highs get taken out. I mean, that makes sense to me. But either way, like,
So
I mean, I'm in
maybe
the camp of trend
maybe
is up.
the market isn't, but Nvidia's in a bull market, right? So there's a lot of names that are starting to show and lead, right? And Apple is in a bull market because it took out all-time highs and has now 3 weeks in a row made new all-time highs weekly and on a closing basis, right? So when you look at the Qs, when it finally took out 120 in December of 2016, in the next let's see here, December 2016, when it took out, so it went from 120 to 187 in the next year and a half or 2 years, right? And then you had the dip down in 2018 with the taper tantrum, right?
Yep.
So, but that when that bull market started, the trend was essentially straight up from that point on. And you gained from 120 when you reclaimed that 15-year high. It then went on to do very shallow, very narrow range up. Didn't give a lot of people an opportunity to add after the bull market actually started, in my view.
Sure.
It wasn't until 2018 where you got a chance to add.
Gaga Papa wants us to go a little bit more in depth on MongoDB. If you guys would entertain him.
Which one?
MDB.
What about it?
Your next trigger is over 400.
Yeah, I mean it's flagging up there. There's a huge gap from 294 up to 366. He just wants more analysis from us on this name.
Yeah, so to me, after a monster move up on earnings like this, you have one of two reactions, right? Or one of three reactions. It just keeps going and then it dies miserably, which is not what you want to see. Or it has the monster move up and no one believes it and it gets rejected immediately. Or you get what this is a 3-week tight, and it's a pretty tight range too, right? It hasn't been a wide range up here. It's been between what, 370 and 297 or whatever it was, 365, and so about a 10% range after a 30% move in the top part of that monster candle is a setup. It's a canceling approach to consolidation, right? It's a 3-week tight is what we've called it many times over. And where is the 3-week tight happening here? The 3-week tight is happening at the monster pivot down from August 2022, where it tagged 390 and essentially went from 390 to 145. Mind you, no one talked about technicals there where we were oversold. They can just keep going because right? It lost 240 points in three months, nonstop, without flinching, not on a ton of volume. So I love when people talk in their favor when it's in their favor. But
yeah, I think we can I should say we. I think one can forget that overbought can say overbought and oversold can say oversold, right? Like it's the whole the market can stay irrational theory. It doesn't matter what your technicals are showing you sometimes, it's what the price action is. I would say about this chart, Gaga Papa, is that you are right on a pivot, right? I drew that blue line across that has acted as resistance and support since late 2020. So obviously above that, major bullish, below that, right? You're cooling off and not as hot. I mean, even if it did pull in some, I mean, anything down in around that weekly 9 EMA, I would think would probably get bought up, but you're at a pivot point. But a 3-week tight generally leads to a bullish outcome. So says JFDI.
Yeah, you have the monthly MAC D cross going too. I mean, I think
Yep.
it's, yeah, I'd basically, I don't have, I mean, I'm not in it. I'm definitely gonna set an alert at 400 though. I'll buy
I
it
got
for
it on
400.
Friday because I will take this probability setup
Sure.
each and every time.
Yeah.
Each and every time, whether it fails or not, I don't really care. But if I'm in the camp of wanting to take setups that are solid in this environment, in a trending environment, I'm taking it. And
Well, it's a pretty easy stop out, right? Like below 365 and it's in trouble.
Yep.
I mean, I'd even be
So-
generous and give it just a 20-day trailing stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. One that we always love talking about, Tesla,
Yeah, slow.
just doing what Tesla does.
I fucking love it.
It's gonna be so hated. It's
Yeah.
just like I
While there
can't.
were so many down names on Friday, not old Elon.
I mean, if it's gonna consolidate, I think it's sitting right at the gap fill. I think a lot of people were keeping
Yeah.
are watching that gap.
There.
That 265 is kind of a spot where I think it might struggle. And again, like if these bigger names decide to digest a little bit, I think this is a spot where Tesla I still feel even if it does need a little time to digest, I think the dips are gonna be shallow. And even if you don't have a position in Tesla now, you could even look at the gap up low as your line in the sand. What is that? 242. By the time 241, 242 gets tested, I'd be willing to bet that the 20-day is caught up to price. Just my opinion.
Volume's expanding, Nick.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the month again, the monthly, and same thing, like the monthly. So I mean, I guess kind of back to that question. So you're in more of the camp that this lockout kind of just continues in the same fashion, or
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point in time you tried to short NVIDIA and got slapped in the face?
no.
Good, because there was a lot of people trying to short NVIDIA the whole way up, and
true that.
they may have gotten it, but so one of the biggest tells in NVIDIA, if you couldn't figure it out throughout the chart while it was happening, was when they announced the secondary after a massive earnings gap up, it didn't even come close to filling it. It was bought up at any point in time to say, guys, that's strength, right? I even identified it when it was happening. I'm like, I thought after such a strong move, when you get a secondary, that's a perfect time to lay it down, right? And it barely budged.
Yeah.
You have Tesla, which got into that gap, right? The one from October 4th, 2022, where basically Elon said, I'm going to sell the crap out of my share, right? Which creates a supply zone, which creates a mental barrier for many people. It rejected, right? Expected rejection, fine. And then what was the next candle? What's the price action? What are the candles actually telling you? We had a massive kind of like hanging man kind of rejection at an expected level. And the next candle was gap down. But what was that gap down? It was a hollow candle gap down saying, okay, well, we're down $5 to $10 and I'm still going to come in and buy the hell out of this crap. And you're like, okay, that was interesting. And then what was the candle on Friday while the rest of the market was red? It closed in the gap.
Yeah.
It closed higher than the candle that it rejected. It like this price action is telling you that the momentum is still here and it's most likely going to 314 before you can even flinch, my opinion, right? Price action. And tomorrow there's World War III and everything gets rejected. I have to make this disclaimer since January 2022 all the time, because everyone thinks that everything can get rejected by millions of percent every time we get rejected. But price action at an expected massive kind of breakaway gap down, you would have expected a bigger pullback, no? Especially with the market being fully red on Friday.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's not what you got. So what is the price action telling you? People still want inside and own the stock. Short at your peril, my opinion. I wish you luck. I hope you get your 0 DTE 5,000% intraday moves. I really hope you do. But it's a fool's errand to me. But whatever. And people are using RSI to make that justification, and I'm like, you were also making the justification when RSI kept hitting lows and it was like nearly 0 when it was at 100 to that it's going to 40. And how right were you there?
I wasn't.
I don't know, man. Put your indicators aside, literally take them off your chart and see what the price is telling you. And it's fairly easy to see.
I don't even know why people use indicators, oscillators.
They can be valuable, but they will not be valuable at the start of a bull market, right? When initially the chase is on, they're gonna stay overbought. This is a fundamental part of it, right? Like
Sure.
it will.
That's why I use stochastic and RSI, because stochastic reads a little faster than RSI does.
Yeah.
So if the Stoke pulls in, but the RSI is still going up, I'm probably looking for Stoke to start turning around, right? So
yeah.
When I use them both in tandem, it helps me be able to say what might be a real move versus might be a false move. To me, it's really hard looking at one of them on their face and saying what value they bring, because they're basically mimicking price action that if you can't read what the price is doing on the candlestick, then those indicators are a good way to do it, but they're lagging, right? So that's why I always have RSI and Stoke up there. Stoke can cool down and RSI can keep going up. I mean, we can pull up a chart. Let's say, Apple, right? Like I'm sure we're going to see Stoke's up here just flatlining at in the 90s, and RSI just keeps going up. Now it'll probably cool off at some point, but that doesn't mean that RSI all of a sudden has to fall off the planet.
Sure.
Anyway.
Yep.
I guess the only indicator I really use is I have volume on my charts, but I only look at the McClellan. Like my preference is to, if I'm not buying a breakout, is to be long oversold readings in an uptrend, and I more or less ignore the overbought readings in an uptrend, and then vice versa.
Yeah. Take something that's been hot here lately, right? Like Asana, a name that I've mentioned and liked. We really just got the RSI crossover like 5 weeks ago or so,
Sure.
But stochastic's been super hot, right? And then you have this little pullback these 2 weeks, and that's where the weeks that I've been saying that this is looking really good, because it's cooling down, but yes, RSI is going higher. So I think they work well in tandem, but again, that's my preferred way of doing technical analysis with those indicators.
Yeah. And time frame, right, guys?
Yeah. Always.
If your monthly is not overbought, but your weekly is and your daily is, you don't have confirmation of the short, right? Now, if the monthly was also sitting in the 80s and the weekly is sitting in the 80s and the daily is sitting in the 90s, then you have more likely chance of this being a shortable moment, right? But
Yep.
if you're looking at the monthly on a lot of these charts, they're sitting in the mid 50s and 60s, right? Nowhere close to
Yep.
being overbought.
So you've got again back to Apple, right? You've got a stochastic on the monthly in the 90s, and then you've got RSI 63. So it tells you that while the stochastics can probably start flatlining up here, there's still plenty of room on the RSI to keep going
Sure.
up. You know, and you take one of these off, right? And now it's like, oh, well, there's plenty of room. You take RSI off and just use Stoke, and it's like, oh my God, it's got to pull in now. It's got to pull in now. Well, you use them both to tell a different story.
But take out all the indicators, including volume. And if you were just looking at price, is this something you'd be shorting? A
No.
box breakout
No,
is something you'd be shorting?
no.
No.
So
But that comes back to what I was saying. If you can't read the price action, right? Like that's those are healthy ways to do that, or easy ways to do that.
but when you're like Apple's a good example, look at NVIDIA, right? Even NVIDIA breaking out of the box that's been created on the monthly is you had a doji breakout, and it's been holding above. This month has been holding above prior month's close, right? And the prior all-time high. So if you were going to take this short, and especially with IV being pumped so high, I don't know why you'd be taking this short, wait for it to cool down. I would take it when it breaks through that all-time high, or when it breaks through the prior month high, close, I mean, low, sorry. But this is so far for what is it? Today's the 17th of June, 17 days into June. We have spent the entire month of June in the top wick of the prior month's bar. That's price action. Forget your indicators, price action. What is it telling you? It is telling you that it's showing strength even after this type of move. So what are you doing shorting? Maybe you're shorting intraday and you're making buttloads of money. Fantastic. I'm happy when everyone makes money. But
Are there a lot of people in your feed that are, I mean, I guess
Yes, that are short.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I have my own little bubble wrapped echo chamber.
More than I care to see. I mean, for a bull, I mean, it kind of makes me happy, but
Sure.
Yeah, and the pivots, right? There's been consistent pivots to it's got to be this or it's got to be that. Now June OPEX biggest call buying. Now it's the end of times, and then like a guy I respect and he has amazing analysis is telling people kind of like the window of opportunity is approaching us to short, like Cem Kersan, right? He's insanely knowledgeable, and now people are using that, and like you might have a great short. I'm not arguing any of that stuff, but right now price doesn't tell me that on so many names.
Well, time frame, right? Like if you're shorting intraday, good luck with that. You might see a good opportunity, but being able to say right now that NVIDIA is a great short down into the 114s, that just seems like a crazy bet to me.
Yeah. I was thinking like, all right, you short NVIDIA for like, a swing short for a retest of like 400.
But what did NVIDIA go to the weekly for a second in NVIDIA?
Yep.
So if we're talking about NVIDIA and you want to think about 3-week tight, this is 3-week tight after a month's remove, right? We're comparing MDB.
Yeah.
Right. What did, and the range is actually wider on NVIDIA, right? Percentage wise, I believe. 3 weeks tight. And then what did it do? It closed at 387 last week, and this week it closed at 426, right? So it had a 40-point move, essentially, a little bit over 10% after a 3-week tight. So I don't know. The bull setup resulted in a bull candle. Like Not sure what else you want from me.
Let's jump into a couple more names.
Yep.
Ranveer is asking about Home Depot. I still like the Lowe's setup better, personally. That's just me, but I don't
agree.
think that there's anything,
I love this setup. I
Home
honestly,
Depot looks pretty good to me.
If you look at the daily candles, they all look like sell bars. Yet for some reason, every week turns green. I don't know how they do it, but they're good at it. So overall, it looks kind of like accumulation, kind of this curling island bottom type thing that's forming here. There's no real name to it, but I really like what it's doing here. And I'm long, and I see this is the rotation I've been talking about, right? Like, it's going to be hard for the market to die when these guys when they're rotating out of some names and into other names, right? It's just the great rotation.
Another name from Ranveer's, Roblox. GP, I know you love Roblox. We've talked about it at length. To me, it's still kind of in the middle of this little range, but it's above all its moving averages. There are worse setups than this out there, in my opinion. And if I were wanting to get long, I would probably start nibbling in this area.
Yeah.
So for me,
I like Roblox, but it hasn't even started, right? Like
it hasn't. Yeah.
It's not even close to starting, right? It's still 30% off of, it's got to clear 50 through 54.
Well,
Great.
right. You'll look at names like Asana, who's been beat down, right? And it's just getting started off of this base. So I don't see Roblox too dissimilar. I kind of like it.
But it can go to the top of the range and come back down, right?
Oh,
Like,
for 1,000%. Yeah. I mean, 54 would be around the top of the range for sure.
yeah. So you can, this is a fairly new company, fairly new chart. This base can form over 5 years before it has its move, or it can start at stage 2 next week. I don't really know. This is one of those, to me, next cycle leaders.
Yeah.
Whenever that next cycle happens. So it's
Yeah, I mean,
watch and wait.
yeah.
Nick, are you
I would imagine. I'm not in Roblox currently. I did try to nibble on it when I was reducing a bunch of just positions and kind of cleaning stuff up before the weekend. This is one that I dumped, but I'd use the 43 pivot as kind of like a cheater, or even versus like 38, like the 200 day.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then again, like through that 48, 49, 50. Like, I love the look of the weekly. I love the look of the monthly. The monthly, the MACD just crossed as well. I was just gonna, like, to your point, GP, like when the Qs or when the general indexes are kind of up at those all-time highs, and like, let's say when we do make that all-time high to quantify us as in like a new bull market, there's going to be another significant wave of names going from stage 1 to stage 2.
Yeah.
So like these setups were like, we're basing sideways. It might not be running right now. It's just biding its time for, I like that point that you had made.
Yeah, and it's possible that we get to all-time highs, right? And then we go sideways for a year and we just kind of stay in a range of, let's say, 380 to 410, right? I don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
There's the macro's got to resolve. There's a lot of stuff that still has to resolve. But to me, what I see consistently is the consumers are really still strong. People have very low mortgages. People are still spending. Bags, right? I think people are still going on vacations. They're choosing how to spend their money a bit more wisely than they would.
I mean, we just bought a freaking minivan.
Yeah. And
I mean, you see the Norwegian cruise lines, things damn near ready to go stage 2.
Yeah. And
people want to get on there. Yeah.
I think when you have strong employment, which I think there still is, even though you can see some spikes of what could potentially be an issue, it's not an issue yet. right? And the market's kind of reflecting that, hey, we didn't even have a recession, yet we corrected 38%. And
How
now
crazy is that?
yeah. And so we corrected 38% off historic levels of interest rate hikes.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing that it's possible. It could be possible that the Fed didn't really break that many things. And that's kind of watch and wait. So we can get to all-time highs, or we can get just within spitting distance of all-time highs, and we kind of consolidate for a month, consolidate for 10 months, could be 10 years. I don't really know. But right now it looks like we're on the verge in the cues of starting a stage 3 pattern. And the stage 3 pattern, if you're interested, looks like what NVIDIA did from 140.
Rocket Moon Lambo.
Yeah, it's shallow, right? It doesn't give you a lot to entry, so you have to kind of either stay out of the market, which I think a lot of people are actually choosing to do, saying, no, this is ridiculous. This is not a new bull market. This is just garbage, and macros, blah and blah, all this stuff. And they're like, I'm going to collect my 5%, 4% in treasuries, and I'm going to be perfectly happy. And
miserable bear theory.
No, but that's cool, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with being safe and holding on to your money, but there's opportunity cost to it. You have inflation that's still around the price of your treasuries at this point, and you're basically money staying flat. So you're getting 5% here, but inflation's still like 4.9. So you're essentially staying flat on your cash. So it would be the same as, let's say, all of 2020 when interest rates were zero. What have you accomplished, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand, because you've locked in your money in, say, 12-month treasuries or 5-year treasuries at 5%, but inflation's still 5%.
Yeah.
So the value of your dollar is going up by the same amount you're saving. So your basically savings rate is zero.
Rohit hits us up with Baba and K-Web, and I think it's worth noting that China is going to dump an ungodly amount of money as stimulus into their economy.
Yeah, I don't know how to play these charts. They're just miserable.
I'm still long yen. That's the 3x China. Still long there. I basically bought the bottom. I bought in around mid 30s, and then picked off 29, and sold some shares in the 40s, or right at 40 2 weeks ago, right? Week before last. So I'm happy. I'm content with my 29, and it can do whatever it wants to do for the short term.
I believe long term the opportunity is there.
Yeah, I do too.
Short term it's been miserable.
Pain.
If you're only into options for this stuff, then I feel like find the longest dated call at the money if you want to see potentially 2 years of misery and then running like the last month before your expiry. These charts it's very hard to kind of get any momentum in these charts. Looks like it's getting better for sure. There's a lot of volume, but
every time Baba's come, except for this October-November swoon, around that 78, 79 area has been a good place to go fishing.
Yeah.
And even if you went fishing here in September, October, you were only in pain for like 5 weeks. So not financial advice. And you guys, anybody who's listened to the pod for any amount of time knows that I only like trading these names. I don't like holding on to them forever. I think that there's opportunity for a little higher, but I'm not betting a whole hell of a lot on what's happening there. But with so much stimulus they're pumping in, you have to imagine that you'd see some upside.
Yeah, and until we see like a higher high in this chart, it's really hard to get full trend bull, right? You can play the range here.
Energy names from JC Rivas. Do you really want to get me and GP started on energy names? Maybe we should just punt this to Nick. Devin or MRO. Who wants to take on either one of these two charts?
I mean,
Yeah.
DVN basically, like a lot of the energy names basically look like they're bear flagging. Like on the weekly DVN specifically. I'm horrendous at trading these energy names, but
Because they're horrendous.
terrible.
yeah. So like I could see so many things playing out. I could see us legging down, or I could see us just being range bound. I don't know. What was the other one? MRO?
Yeah, marathon.
I mean, same thing. What I don't like about them from just the way that I trade specifically is I like having the moving averages stacked in my favor. So like, let's just say take the weekly, the 30 is under the 40 and the 10 is under both of them.
Yeah.
Even on the daily, speaking of the 40 week, the 200-day is flatlined. If you have a flatlined 200-day moving average, you're basically talking about a trendless market. So for the people that do want to argue that XLE or energy names are range bound, I can get behind that, just being that the 200-day is flat. That starts to curl down, and I'd be much more in the camp that we're legging down.
I've just pulled up crude. I mean, you lost the 200 moving day or 200-day moving average.
Yeah.
In August, you've rejected it already once this year. GP and I have had no secrets on. It's not a great looking chart just from our take, but we've been saying this for months on end. It's still holding this 200 week, but at the same time, you've got all of these moving averages pressing down. It's just not something that I like. I've been wrong in this sector before, but even when you look at the XLE, like, it is just really struggling to recapture those moving averages, and I'm not sold that they're going to in the short term.
XLE has basically been range bound for over a year now.
So here's I was using my RSI and stochastic on the bullish trend. Here's my RSI and stochastic on a bearish thesis. I mean, you have the RSI rejecting its moving average, right? And now you have lower highs all the way down on stochastic too. So the trend on the indicators is one way, while price is kind of flat, which would lead me to believe that the bottom is going to fall out.
One is the question. So if we look at the chart, right, on a monthly basis, XLE, that monster outside month from June 22, right? So full year kind of within that outside bar, right? I don't think we had a close above, but we've been essentially inside that range for the last 12 months. And looking at June OPEX, there was a ton, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of puts at so many different strikes, which essentially give it the strength of not falling down, right? And now a lot of that stuff has rolled over. So I'd be curious to see if the weakness now starts to pick up. But it's been range bound, so I've been wrong. I think it's a short, and I think it's distribution. yet. My gosh, the distribution has just been so long that I like
Mhm.
it's just not worth my time until it actually breaks.
It's like a snowball rolling downhill, you
Yeah.
know, like it starts little and then it starts speeding up. And when I say the bottom is going to fall out, I'm not expecting this all the way, all of a sudden from going from 80 on the XLE into the 40s. I don't think it's going to happen like that. When I say the bottom is going to fall out, is the supports are going to start being lost and it's going to just continue to stair step down.
I'd love for it to actually fall out, but it's the RSI on a weekly is trending down. It is in a downtrend. You are in a weekly MACD cross down. It just actually hit negative, which is interesting, over the last few weeks. So it's got all the bearish symbols, but does nothing instead. Just drops like $1, and then it on very, very low volume just goes bananas all the way back up, and then says, no, I'm good here. I'm going to reject you and I'm going to go back down. So this is not worth my time and effort. It's not.
I pulled up gold, not because I want to talk about it, but I haven't looked at it in a few weeks. Anyway, you guys, it's that time. One thing you like, one thing you don't like. Nick, go.
Again, I think Boston Scientific is what I like currently, or kind of what I'm focusing on. BSX, NVRTX. What I don't
you
like,
and VRTX is like GB
I know.
and Netflix, so you can't use VRTX as things you like.
Yeah. All right, fair. What I don't like,
Boston Scientific does look good though.
not that I don't like them, I'm just hoping for a little bit more of a pull in an AMD. Like I'd like to get.
You
I'd
can
like
be
to
a
get
little bearish AMD, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like the action. I mean, I liked the action last week. I'd like to get a little bit more of a pull in it, but ultimately I'm looking to get bigger in it. So
it's all time frame, right? You're not saying
Yeah.
AMD to zero. You're just saying I think we can get a little pullback, and that's opportunity.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
I feel that.
Well, if he's saying AMD, you know what I gotta say.
Cisco?
Intel.
Intel.
Look at that.
Is this 3 weeks in a row that you've used Intel? If so, like
only because he said AMD. I actually have another one. I will.
right.
But Intel weekly,
That looks like it's going to mid 40s like ASAP.
That was a monster. That's almost a 20% week. I believe
Volume's huge too.
Yeah.
I'll just say this: if Intel's doing that, AMD is not going to give you much, if any, of a pullback, because the whole cohort will go together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. You know what I like, and it's one of those penny stocks. I talked about it last week, I believe. If you take a look at Vroom,
Vroom.
To me, if you bring it up here, Bags, VRM, it's that there's some heavy accumulation in this kind of zone. CEO or executive board member bought 500,000 shares at 76 cents.
Prairie dogging at the pivot. I kind of like it.
I like it. I'm in from 80 cents. So I'm talking my book here, but
that's okay.
This chart is looking kind of delicious. And it's moved a lot in the last couple of weeks, so it could use a breather here. But I do like how the volume is starting to increase and the price is going up with it, right? So, then
looks good.
I really like this view. But it's a penny stock, not financial advice.
Yeah, I mean, you get 250 out of it. That's a double
from here from 80 cents. That's a 300% move.
Yeah.
So, it's not a huge position for me, but I just really like the chart. Not an options play because it's so cheap. So just straight commons.
And you don't like?
And I don't like Square all that much.
Still.
Yeah, it's feels like it's bear flagging to me. It's grinding higher. Maybe it breaks out. It's been
But
stuck
if
in
ever,
that.
sorry, GP, if everything's going higher, shouldn't this at least go higher?
Not necessarily. We're separating the good from the bad, right? So
Well, but so I'm not saying that you're wrong for thinking that you don't like this. So I don't want to step on your you don't like. But what I'm saying is if we think markets are going to an all-time high, the rising tide lifts all boats.
so yeah, it might go up, but at what cost, right? So let's say you bought
I don't
100,
know.
you bought 100 shares. Like, so to me, if you're comparing charts, look at Roku's chart versus Square's chart, right? And Roku's chart shows it's similar for the most part, and they've been kind of tied at the hip since 2021. Roku's chart looks better to me than the Square chart does. It's had 5 straight weeks of green but it also had 5 weeks of red, and look at the volume compared to those 2 weeks, and that's after this monster red volume. So this looks like it could potentially fall out.
Fair enough.
Right. So
I you know me, I just like to play devil's advocate sometimes.
yeah, I would have liked to see volume push here, and it's not what we saw in Square, and that would have made me a lot more bullish in the way of looking at this chart, but it doesn't. It's been a lot of kind of distribution, and it kind of looks like a bear flag into a moving average, and not volume. Maybe the volume picks up and it breaks out and it goes higher, but I don't have a position. I don't want a position here, but I just looked at it and I'm like, this one seems to be lagging, right? And I think PayPal is very similar too.
Yep.
Yeah, PayPal looks like, wow.
PayPal looks much worse than Square does.
Yeah, and so if you're comparing these types of kind of fintech names, look at what SoFi has done, right? Versus these guys.
Oh, I know what SoFi has done, my brother.
I know, but this is right. Like, if fintech is going to start moving higher, this is what I would have wanted to see. You see that volume pushing out?
Yep.
That's accumulation in a stage 1 pattern. You're not seeing that in Square.
I trimmed right at the top of that bar right there, and now I'm on free shares of SoFi, and I'll be writing calls until I am 70 years old.
But this, like, when you're looking at chart patterns and when you're looking at things this is the kind of stuff I kind of look for, because I'm like, all right, what are names in the same space doing, right? And SoFi kind of falls in the same space, and Square's not doing that, and it's more mature companies. So what do people know, right?
Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. For me, what I like, I can't go with Asana 3 weeks in a row, even though I do. What I do like is RIVN and even Polestar. I looked at this chart the other day, and I think it's got some giddy up to it. It's similar in the positioning of room, sitting on that pivot with some nice little volume and pushing up. Not quite a penny stock, but it's very cheap. So not financial advice, but a name that I'm watching to go along to pair with my RIVN trade. And a name I don't like, I mean, we just talked about it briefly, SoFi. I think SoFi is going to be range bound here for a while, and I am already actively selling calls and can't wait to make my shares even cheaper.
Nice. That RIVN, that weekly, oh, that looks good. I like it. I've been using RIVN as a hedge to my Tesla position, because I feel like RIVN's the only really big competitor to Tesla, and I do have friends who have swapped their Teslas for RIVN. I think there's about 3 of them so far.
Yeah, I didn't get assigned this last week because I had $14 puts sold for this week, and it came in at $14.88, but I got my 14.50s assigned the week before. So I think this is a good zone for me to accumulate some in this position. But again, I'm thinking more Polestar to just go along with sort of like a sister trade
I have never seen a Polestar on the road. Have you?
I have, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I have seen a few Polestars here. I see Rivians all over the place because we do have a Rivian factory down here. So
Okay.
I've seen quite a few Rivian. But anyway, as we've talked about on a previous TA report, electrification, we like those new GP and I can't speak for Nick. We like the newer companies than the normal automakers, the GMs, the Fords, et cetera. The legacy automakers, I guess I should say.
Yep.
One name I will throw this out before we quit. One name that I'm keeping an eye on is Salesforce. Looks like it wants to roll over a little bit. And when I'm saying rolling over, I'm not expecting it to go down to, new lows or anything, but it looks like it wants to give a little bit back. And I'll be looking to see if I can snag anything below these wicks. So like 205, anything down in the 190s. I'll probably be back in that position. So I'll keep an eye on Salesforce. I think it's interesting. And if things go up, this is best in class software as a service provider. So we'll see. Hey guys,
Yeah.
we did it again.
I like Salesforce as well.
So it's another hour. So thank you for your time on this Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. If you're watching this show, just a reminder, we'll be back tomorrow midday-ish with Cookie Monster. Cookie's going to join us for an hour. We thought for some reason, Nick and I both thought that there was market Monday, but there's not. So that might be good that we have some time to just kick it, not people worried about what positions they have on. GP may join us. We'll see. We hope that he's able to. But hey, do us a favor and mash that like and subscribe. We always appreciate that when you do. And hey, thanks guys. Thanks for listening. GP, Nick,